All right, I'll go through some more questions that people have DM'd me or emailed me. Um, first one, tips for staying lean and maintaining insulin sensitivity in an off-season push, specifically for bodybuilders. And I know cheat meals are the number one culprit for most people. Um, so first of all, I would say you'd have to know what your numbers are as far as your HbA1c and a fasting glucose. So maybe you take it with a continuous glucose monitor, or I'm not always the biggest fan of that. You can just prick your finger every morning and then post granular like 45 minutes after a meal and then 2 hours after a meal and kind of see if the spike is coming down. Um, but you can kind of tell too whether if your body's getting a little bit watery, holding a little bit more body fat, maybe digestion's off. Um, but your main culprit is going to be added body fat. Like you're in a surplus. You don't need like if you're eating 4,000 calories and that's your maintenance, you don't need 8,000 calories. Like you don't need to double it. You just need to go up a few hundred calories every day. I mean, maximum, I'd say, 5,000 calories, depending on you're throwing in a new peptide or a new anabolic, something that's going to enhance muscle growth and or speed up metabolism in some way. You're going to have to add more calories in, but I wouldn't do that because you're putting more stress on your GI tract. So this minimal amount of food volume with calories is going to be your best friend. So like adding like one or two dates into your diet or like an extra half cup of rice. But um, I'm texting someone to see who's going to win the pit pro. Um, they say Nick looks amazing, so I think Nick might take it. They're at the show right now. So yeah, this is Saturday, um, May 10th. So your body fat percentage is really what's going to say insulin sensitive or not. You can always take supplementation along with keeping again your diet close like slightly above maintenance just to add muscle. You can add in supplements like alpha lipoic acid or the RALA. It's a little bit more bioavailable. You don't have to take as much. I prefer alpha lipoic acid, 600 milligrams with high carb meals. Uh, dihydroberberine or berberine with sodium caparate. It's something to help enhance absorption. And too much berberine can cause some GI distress and kill off good and bad bacteria. Uh, I wouldn't use metformin. I would wait to keep that for on like during your prep, like in season rather than off season. And I mean, you can do things like uh, Emodin if your cortisol is really high, and maybe that's why your insulin sensitivity is off. You're a little bit more insulin resistant. Emodin can help with controlling that. You can take that at night so you don't have any GI distress, or take it like after a really hard workout or a really large meal. Um, you can take cinnamon, Ceylon cinnamon. You can do uh, fenugreek seems to do really well with absorbing uh, the glucose and trying to help it store into glycogen. But I would say 10-minute walks afterwards, after your meals, that's going to help be really, um, that's going to be a really good way to boost your GLUT4. And that's really the transporter that's going to take the uh, the, the carbs and store them into glycogen. So taking the glucose stored into glycogen in your muscles. Um, so I would do that. And then you also have to keep in mind like insulin sensitivity isn't just, it's not, you can't just blanket statement insulin sensitivity because you have insulin for your uh, muscles, you have insulin for fat cells. So um, you have insulin for like cellular health, so like heart, brain. So what are you wanting to be insulin sensitive? Are you wanting your fat cells to be insulin sensitive? Um, Probably not. So we're really just focusing on the GLUT4 transporter for muscle insulin sensitivity. So staying lean is your best friend, man. And I don't, you don't need cheat meals in the off season. Like that's pretty dumb. Just eat more clean food. And again, low volume, high calorie, to hit that caloric need. And usually you're going to be bumping up carbohydrates, keeping the fats low, keeping protein probably the same, or maybe a little bit more. It really depends on your digestion. So that's a bunch of information for you. Um, but hopefully you get it to where you need to be. But you got to keep checking it to see if you are off or not. Brain fog is another thing that you could have as a response to insulin sensitivity being low, so a little bit more insulin resistant. Mm, I think that's about it, man. Yeah, and just continue weighing yourself and how you look in the mirror. So do photos, same light, so the same timing, same background. Uh, Change your underwear. But try to do this, be very routine with it, and make sure that you have a good visual of your appearance, and then also on a scale. Um, should you take out creatine if you are on a cut? No, keep creatine in, man. Creatine is more than just for muscles. It's for heart health. It is for brain health, and there's a lot of studies showing that it does support cognitive function, which is why the majority of older people or geriatrics should be taking it. Seems to reduce the risk of amyloid plaque buildup. It helps with ATP for energy, for heart, and yeah, so it's technically being marketed as a longevity supplement. Uh, and again, longevity does mean muscles as well. So you want to reduce the risk of sarcopenia. So that breaking down a muscle, that's going to help you not fracture a bone when you get older. And it's going to help you keep your insulin sensitivity. Again, the more lean muscle tissue you have. Um, yeah. So don't take it out. I mean, and if you have bloating issues from creatine, I wholeheartedly think that that's BS. I think you're changing something else that you don't know, you don't think about, whether it be routine or food. Creatine monohydrate, tried and true. You don't need anything else. You can take it in powder form or you can take it in chewables. I would reduce the risk of buying gummies because it turns into creatinine because it's unstable. There is one way that you can uh, keep it more stable, but in a gummy form because you're adding water, you're adding hydrate to it, like a hydrogen. We want monohydrate, creatine monohydrate. So avoid gummies because you're not going to get creatine in there. And now the now supplement company that has been doing some testing, third-party testing on companies, and they are failing. When you decide it's time to increase calories during the off season, when you're not growing and you're still digesting your food well, kind of going back to the whole insulin, keeping your insulin sensitivity. Um, if you become insulin resistant, you back it down, right? You can always increase the amount of movement you have throughout the day. I'm not saying cardio per se, but just movement, walks after meals, pacing in the house if you work from home, if you work a rigorous job where you walk around a lot, construction or something like that, you're going to have to find a way to to not let your body adapt to that many steps. And so that might mean increasing calories with specific meals around your work, and then maybe decreasing them on other parts of the day. So you might not need as many calories pre and post workout, and you can try to it's not really trick the body, but you're just trying to help the body not be as efficient at what you're doing. So, um, but you, and if you need to gain insulin sensitivity if from a rigorous job, you're going to have to add some sort of cardio that your body's not used to. If you're on your feet all day, I would say like a bicycle or stair mill. Um, what's your thought on Derek Northwest one day saying up creatine to 20 grams a day? Um, yeah, you can, man. It's the loading phase. the more muscle, the more lean tissue muscle you have, the more your body will need. It'll falsely produce a high creatinine level on your blood work. So if you have a PCP who's kind of dumb and doesn't know about sports, athletes, fitness, supplementation, blood work, a lot of them don't, then they're going to think that you have some sort of kidney issues, even though they didn't order a cystatin C or the GFR numbers are completely in range. You can try to reduce that creatinine amount on your blood work by reducing the intensity of your workout 3 days prior before your blood work, just so that the doctor doesn't freak out for some reason and make you get an ultrasound on your kidneys and just waste that money. So yeah, man, if you want to, you can. I don't see that many people with a need to take 20 milligrams or 20 grams of creatine. I'm sorry, like I just think that 10 grams is fine. I think that 20 grams, Derek from More Place More Dates is trying to sell more creatine. It's a good marketing tactic. He has a lot of followers, but uh, that would just be a loading phase. You wouldn't be all time. It'd be like 5 days of 20 grams, and then you get back down to 10, and then maybe five. Um, I take 5 a day, and yeah, so take 5 a day, and then sometimes pre-workouts will have it in there, so it might be like maybe 7 one day, maybe 10 one day. It really just depends. But I would stick around that five and not really. There's really no need for loading creatine unless you're a powerlifter and you're trying to get as much strength as possible in a short amount of time for some sort of unweighted event. Um, there's trouble with Primo and Mass, or with the talking about the tariffs and the issue of that supply coming in. Would DHB be a good work or a good way to what? Okay, would DHB be a good alternative? Um, mm, no, no. I think there's plenty of a supply out there for Primo and Masteron. I think that what people do is a supply and demand. There's been a huge spur of supply and demand with Primo and Masteron because of influencers or coaches now running a lot of either of them. Primo will shut down your estrogen for the majority of people that I've seen. Masteron will not, but it seems to have a anti, or it seems to have like a lowering estrogen effect, or like your body doesn't get the doesn't get the side effects of a lot high estrogen, even though your blood work might show higher estrogen. I would definitely get an estrogen sensitivity test, and it'll show lower. But um, yeah, I'm not a big fan of DHB. I know a lot of people say that it seems to be very similar. I just think that it's one more thing to make everything complicated and more murky. I wouldn't be surprised if DHB increases in price and they start adding other compounds into it, like faking it or diluting it with another compound. To me, it's just a marketing scheme by the sellers. Um, okay. I'm 43 on TRT, 200 milligrams per week, but I lost size due to a torn bicep tendon and couldn't work out for 6 months. I'm trying to get back to some size, but can't seem to grow even after eating more good calories, protein and carbs. Should I add more meals? Um, I mean, it's really vague when someone says eating more good calories. People think that muffins and croissant are carbs, but that's pretty much fats. It's a lot of fat to the carb ratio. So I look at those as like a high fat. Uh, let's see, 200 milligrams per week. I mean, you could, instead of increasing your food, what I would almost do, actually, what I would do if I was in your situation, I would blow up my arm with BPC 157 and TB 500, just run a heck ton of it, at least, at least 1 milligram of BPC every single day, as closest to the spot as you can. That I'm assuming you didn't work out for 6 months. I don't think it's a torn bicep tendon. You in order to lift heavy, you're going to need longer than 6 months of recovery coming from the background in orthopedics. So I would ensure that everything's healthy and strong, and I would do that BPC. TB for sure, if you unless you're allergic to it, or you can take thymosin, which is like a thymus gland. I prefer that one anyways, but TB 500 is easier to get. But TA1 would be my suggestion, and or GH and run like 4 IUs every night uh, to aid in that recovery. And then I would up your TRT for a bit, maybe for about six weeks. Up your TRT to maybe 300, maybe 400. That's what I would do. So yeah, because increasing food, you haven't worked out for 6 months. It's hard to get back in. You're probably not as insulin sensitive, so you might have some blood sugar issues if you start increasing carbs. How do you get VAR, Anavar with all this fake stuff? Go to a doctor. Is it worth the money to buy whey protein isolate instead of concentrate? Yes, in my opinion, yes. Whey protein concentrate, it's easily digestible. It's been broken down into smaller peptides so that your body can absorb it without all the lactose built into it. I think concentrate, people are sensitive to it, especially with the food volume we have, and that can cause some digestive issues. Now you're not digesting your food so well, you're bloated, maybe you're not eating as much as you should because you're bloated, and then that's just going to cause a cascade of effects that are impacting your gains. Now you could do the route of A2 milk protein that has a whey protein concentrate in it. It seems to work very well. I am using it. It's from Ancient Nutrition, and it doesn't cause any bloating right in here. So uh, I don't know. I don't know why. It literally digests just as well as whey protein isolate because that's all I used to take. And I'm assuming that the A2 milk protein in it is helping the digestion of the whey protein concentrate. And I think the whey protein concentrate is 85% WPC. I think so. But yeah, if you got the money for it and you can't stomach any more protein and you need an extra 25 to 50 grams a day, yes, do it. It'll save you money in the long run because you're going to be spending more money on digestive aids like betaine HCl, uh, maybe marshmallow root, maybe neem, maybe uh, extra tutka, ox bile, anything to help gastric emptying to try to break down the protein more. How long should you be waiting to decide you're not making any more progress up to calories? 1 week, 2 weeks? Um, I would. It's really difficult to say, man, because what are you progressing in? Is it your physique? Is it weak body parts? Is it progressive overload and lifting? There's a lot of variables there of what do you mean by progressing? If you're looking at weak body parts, I mean, and you're looking at and you're comparing yourself to the IFBB pros. Remember, a lot of those guys do use site injection enhancements for their weak body parts, and they do it almost daily with a hyaluronic acid. Sometimes hyaluronic acid it doesn't sit too well, or you need some sort of oil. Uh, but like uh, I can't remember off the top of my head what that oil is. I'm drawing a blank. Synthol. It's very common, man. So I don't know what you are talking about progress wise, but if you're hitting, if you're not seeing any sort of progression within, I would say like 2 to 3 weeks, you probably need to reassess the things, training program, food, lifestyle, like sleeping habits. So food choices rather than upping the food, you just might need to switch around food sources, right? So uh, yeah, you need to work with somebody and get their opinion and get some eyes on you to see what's going on and have a better description of really what you want to do. Okay, email. Is wondering if there's any benefit of taking Clomid or in clomiphene while on a TRT, 200 milligrams of test per week. Uh, why? I don't think so, man. I mean, Clomid. So like a lot of people, they'll try to get their balls back to be a bigger size after running the cycle. Unless you're trying to have a kid, there's a different route to go with HMG for gaining fertility. And I had kids while on a cycle, so two boys, not girls, and I was taking things. So I've never done a TR, or I've never done a PCT or or added Clomid for that reason. I added Clomid for fun because you get bigger loads. So that's fun, right? HCG, you also get bigger loads and your balls get bigger with HCG. But the problem is you got some negative you have the adverse effects of Clomid, which is like unstable uh, emotions. They're you're like crying at like the Good Dinosaur movie, right? So I'm not the biggest fan of it because it does cause a lot of like mood swings, feeling like a girl. Um, Blood work showing high prolactin. Any suggestions on how to lower it? If you have high prolactin, man, I mean, if you had it whenever you were a kid, then you this is probably it. Like you need to get some. Uh, you probably need to get a scan, like a pituitary scan, if you have high prolactin. The Your numbers aren't that high, but I was like if you're taking any type of 19-or, it may cause that. I've never seen it in myself. Uh, I rarely see it in clients. Usually they have some sort of underlying issue that they were born with or predisposed and it popped up while taking anabolics because anabolics speeds up the rate of some of these predisposed conditions that we have. So you can take things like P5P. I mean, you got to do like 300 to 600 milligrams a day. It's heck of expensive. You can take cabergoline, but again, you're running the risk of ruining your dopamine response because they give that to Parkinson's disease patients. And I find caber fine. I've taken it. I haven't had any issues. Blood works fine. Organs are fine. So, but there might be an underlying condition that you have, and you need to figure out what it is because anabolics are speeding that process up. Kind of like the reason why you go bald. Like I've taken a lot of Masterin and I still have hair, right? It doesn't cause hair loss unless you're genetically going to have less hair. So I even asked the barber to like make it thinner. I don't want it super thick. All right, last question about GH. So this guy is short on some money. He decided to take a break. He was taking 1.6 IUs of growth hormone daily. Got blood work. IGF was around 300. I don't know what time you took the blood work after the shot. And did you take it sub-Q versus intramuscular? I don't know. So would uh, so I don't have cancer or anything like that, but what's the whole deal with the growth hormone making cancer worse? No, that's false. If that's the case, then every single bodybuilder up on stage would be riddled with tumors. That it is not a tumor. So it's false, right? We men predominantly have more IGF-1 production. IGF-1 can be a precursor to cancer growth. Every cancer is different. So you can't blanket statement saying IGF-1 increases cancer. What type of cancer? Do you have metabolic, um, uh, um, geez, what's the freaking word I'm looking for? Um, do you have metabolic dysfunction? Like what's going on with your body? How healthy is your lifestyle? Are you drinking alcohol? Are you smoking recreational drugs? Are you taking edibles? Are you taking kratom? Oh, going back, kratom causes increased prolactin. Are you? So do not take kratom. I don't know why people take kratom. Um, like I understand why. duh, that works on the opioid receptor, but like it's really dumb and it's addictive. It's really addictive. So you're an addictive personality, and then you go on kratom to get off of the addiction, and yet you're getting addicted to that other thing. Oh, but it's natural. It's way better for you. Yeah, well, so is cocaine. Cocaine's natural, right? I mean, I guess you should just take cocaine instead of caffeine. I mean, because now I'm addicted to coffee, so I should just be taking caffeine, cocaine instead of caffeine. Anyways, and so men typically have more IGF-1, women have more HGH production and less IGF-1. Now, uh, again, every cancer is different. I don't see this. I like you have kids who have cancer with a low IGF-1 rate. You have male adults who have cancer with a low IGF-1 rate. You have females with low IGF-1 rate. Again, every single bodybuilder that's either taking straight peptide chains of IGF-1 or tons of GH, they should be having cancer. And the top guys get body scans and they don't have anything, nor do they end up dying with that later on. So it, it's yeah, I wouldn't worry about it because the fact is these research like research doctors, PhDs, research funding, whoever they fund for these clinical trials, and the need for these research tests, they have no idea. They don't know. The same way that we don't know all about space, we don't know all about the gut, we don't know all about underwater. They don't know. Like you, if that's the case, then there'd be some major high politicians that should not be dying of cancer. So if you're a high politician and you have cancer, you should be getting the drug that they know about that's going to cure cancer, right? Because if you're a Blackstone or BlackRock executive, like you're or president, right? You're going to have zero cancer, right? So, I mean, we saw that with Biden. I mean, he was dumb as a brick, and shouldn't that have been cured with whether he had Alzheimer's or maybe a pituitary, like, what if he had a tumor pressing up against his pituitary or something? I don't know. Like, what if there's something wrong, right? There shouldn't be anything wrong if they had all these answers. So we should have uh, a president or high officials, high status politicians, high CEO executives that should never have cancer or health implications because they would have the answer. So they don't know what they're talking about. So why are they putting out studies to scare us? I would not be scared of high IGF-1 unless you're predisposed to having cancer. And again, what type of cancer is does high IGF-1 increase? I mean, how many hundreds of different cancers are there? Probably a lot. Anyways, hope that helps. Like, share, comment, subscribe so I can answer more questions for you guys.